Mr Chair.
Chris Farfoy.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair. It's my pleasure to take, I think, which is the final call for this bill, to consolidate the thoughts of my colleagues on this copyright parallel importing of films amendment bill. Mr Chair, I will start with the bill because that's what you probably want me to do. And as my colleague David Clark mentioned, it is a very thin bill, and the main part of it is in Clause 4, which amends Section 35 of the parent legislation. And for those at home who might be watching, because they may be very interested in this debate, it does change the amount of time in which a film can be first made available from 9 months to 5 months. And it also makes sure that this legislation, which expires on the 31st of October, is extended to the 31st of October 2016. So that's in essence what is within this bill. It is a bill which has finally balanced support from the Labour Party, because while we do disagree with some of the arguments made by the government and the industry, we do have some concerns around the viability of smaller independent cinemas in areas outside of the main centres and also in rural areas. Now, my colleague Claire Curran was rattling off a number of cinemas in areas around the country earlier on, and she failed to mention one which is in my electorate, which is the Lighthouse Pawatahanui, which is a lovely spot. If Mr Macintyre would like to visit sometime, I'd quite happily take him to the movies. But it is, that's not a, that's, you take it up if you like. But it is in a rural area of my electorate, and it is one of these, I'm not sure if Mr Pip's on there, but it is one of these independent cinemas which show probably more art house movies, but from time to time popular movies which you would see in some of the bigger chains like of the Hoyt still exists. It's been a long time since I've been to the movies, or the Reading cinemas that you might see in central Wellington. It is what you would call a destination cinema, so you go there because it is a bit different, and there was concern from a number of these independent cinemas around the country, and that's why we on this side of the House, and I think Claire Curran used the word grudgingly, have accepted to support this legislation to ensure that there is a period of grace for those smaller independent cinemas to be able to make a transition to use more digital technology. And also be able to change their business model, and I think that's also the case for some of the larger cinema operators as well. Mr Chair, we do have, as I think Grant Robertson mentioned, we do have some concerns that while this bill does address some issues around this industry, it doesn't really take a bigger picture look at the copyright issues that we're faced because of the rapid development of technology that we have at the moment. And the government did, I think, commit to a review of copyright. And instead of doing that and following through with that, it has decided to just, I guess you could say, meet the requests of the larger cinema operators just to push the extension date out to 2016, the 31st of October, and to make sure that there is still a grace period, even though it is changing from 9 months to 5 months. We do, as I say, have the finely balanced support for this bill on those two pieces, but very, very guarded, because we do think that is the last chance for the cinema industry to make the changes that it needs to make to the business model, and to make sure that they are adapting to the digital technology that currently exists. We also had some concerns around this because the way that the cinema industry is operating, we thought there was a degree of protectionism here because they did want a delay in the release on DVD for some movies, and we believe that that was causing some cinemas to charge what we call, I think David Clark was talking about it, unreasonable prices to go to the movies, and it was making it much more costly for Kiwis' family to have an outing to the cinema, and that if the public We weren't able to legally obtain the material because it had been released elsewhere in the world, and they could get hold of it in some other illegal manner through the internet. So that was also another concern that we had in this side of the House. Mr. Chair? Was it the bell? Or was that, okay, that was the bell. We do think that the time frame given to the cinemas to change, which is at the moment at the end of October 2016, is a little lenient. We do believe that maybe 2015 is plenty of time for them to make the innovative changes that they need to make in terms of technology. And we do hope that maybe some cinema operators won't take the full 3 years and may be able to make the transition to fully digital and also to change their business models well before that. But as we say, we think 2 years is certainly enough time for them to change their ways. Mr. Chair, this bill has come about, and the need for more urgency around it has come about because of the changing technology. Back in the day when we watched our first movies, and Grant Robertson has talked about being kicked out of a cinema for rolling Jaffas. Back in the day when we watched our first movies, I understand David Clarke's first movie was the second in the series of Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and he's spoken about that at length in his contributions. Back in those days, Mr. Chair, when a movie was released, it took years to get to New Zealand. But with the way that the internet operates at the moment, you can almost instantly get it when it is released somewhere else, which makes a bit of a farce, we believe, on this side of the House, that there is a delay in movies being shown at cinemas when they are released somewhere else in the world, in their, I guess you could say, world premieres. And we don't believe that the movie industry here has adapted enough to be able to move fast enough in order that they still need protection for that first 5 months in this bill and in the previous bill of 9 months before those movies can be shown or sold on DVD here in New Zealand. So times have changed, and that's why we believe that this legislation should change to meet the technology and the rapid increases in technology. Mr. Chair, as I say, we do give this finely balanced support, qualified support. We want to make sure that the big chains more or less move faster to adapt to the changes in technology, and as I say, I'll make this point again, to make sure that they change their technology and change their business model to one that works fairer for consumers. But our support for this legislation is to protect the smaller operators in the rural areas, like those of the Lighthouse in Pauatanui and Porirua, and those outside the main areas, because it's those cinema operators, Mr. Chair, that stood to either lose quite a lot of money or stand to lose their whole operation because they simply wouldn't have been able to have the time or the wherewithal to be able to respond to the changes in this legislation. So we do support it in a qualified way, but we understand that this will keep some of those smaller independent operators above board.
There are 4 questions. The question is that clause 1 stand part. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question is that clause 2 stand part. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question is that clause 3 stand part. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question is that clause 4 stand part. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. I will report this bill without amendment presently. Members, we move now to the Local Government Auckland Council Amendment Bill number 2.